Consider it a developmental opportunity, Alexandra said with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. The boardroom fell silent. 12 executives in tailored suits stared at their notepads, avoiding eye contact while I stood there, PowerPoint still glowing behind me. The words, $3.2 million in new revenue, hanging in the air like a sad joke. My throat closed up. My hands trembled slightly as I gathered my presentation materials. Someone coughed. Someone else shuffled papers. No one defended me. Just 3 minutes earlier, I'd been finishing my presentation on how I'd secured the Davidson account, the white whale our company had been chasing for 7 years. Now I was being shipped off to our dying Nebraska branch like yesterday's garbage. My name is Rachel Keller. I'm 36 years old, and that moment in the boardroom was when I realized that no amount of success would ever be enough in a company where relationships trumped results. Before I go further, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I would love to hear from you. This story changed my entire life, and I still get shaky telling it, even years later. I'd been with Meridian Consulting for 9 years, started as an analyst and worked my way up to senior director of client acquisition. Never missed a target, never took more than 3 sick days a year. The Davidson account had been my obsession for 18 months. Endless research, strategy sessions, personalized proposals. I'd flown to their headquarters 6 times on red eyes, missing my nephew's birthday and my best friend's wedding. When they finally signed, bringing in $3.2 million in first-year revenue alone, I thought I'd finally get the VP position I'd been passed over for twice before. Instead, Alexandra Winters, our CEO, chose that moment, my moment of triumph, to announce my reassignment to our Omaha office. The branch needs stabilizing, she explained to the board, not to me. And Rachel needs to round out her experience with some operational management. It's a perfect match. Perfect match. Our Omaha office was where careers went to die, operating at a loss for 11 consecutive quarters, staff turnover at 72%. The last 3 managers had either quit or been fired within 9 months. As the meeting adjourned, people filed past me with mumbled congratulations on the Davidson account and awkward good lucks for Omaha. Only Darius, our CFO, met my eyes directly. "This isn't right," he whispered. "But be careful. Alexandra doesn't forget perceived slights." In the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection. My carefully applied mascara had smudged slightly beneath my right eye. I wiped it away with my thumb. 2 weeks, Alexandra had said. That should give you enough time to hand off your accounts and find housing in Omaha. That night, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I sat at my kitchen counter drinking a glass of wine, scrolling through real estate listings in a city I'd visited exactly once for a 3-hour client meeting 4 years ago. My cat Fitzgerald purred against my ankle while my mind replayed every interaction I'd had with Alexandra over the past year, searching for what I'd done to earn her enmity. The next morning, I walked into her office without an appointment. "Rachel," she said, not looking up from her computer, "I'm in the middle of something." "Why Omaha?" I asked simply. She sighed, finally meeting my gaze with those cool gray eyes. "Your performance metrics are impressive, but you lack people management experience. The board feels..." "The board? Or you?" Her lips thinned. "You're ambitious, Rachel. That's admirable. But you've developed a certain reputation. Some find your approach abrasive. Clients appreciate results, but colleagues need relationships. I brought in Davidson after 7 years of the company trying and failing," I said quietly. "Yes, and you'll receive your full commission. This isn't a punishment. It's an opportunity for growth. Marcus has been reporting serious structural issues in Omaha. The branch needs someone with your intensity." Marcus Winters, Alexandra's younger brother who'd somehow landed the regional director position overseeing our Midwest operations, despite having half the qualifications of other candidates. I'd only met him twice at company. Functions handsome, charming, and constantly surrounded by people laughing at his jokes. "And if I decline?" I asked. Alexandra's smile was thin. "That would be disappointing, especially with restructuring coming. Those without demonstrated management experience might find themselves vulnerable. The threat was clear. Take the demotion or lose your job entirely. I packed my life into 12 boxes, sublet my apartment to a friend's cousin, put my plants in Darius's office and my cat with my sister. On my last Friday, the team took me to happy hour. Expensive cocktails, forced smiles, and empty promises to visit. Linda from marketing hugged me too long and whispered, "You're not the first she's done this to." The Omaha office was worse than I'd imagined. A half-empty floor in a dated office park with stained carpet and flickering fluorescent lights. 17 employees, most looking defeated before their day even started. The branch manager's office, my new office, had water damage on one wall and smelled faintly of mildew. "We weren't sure you'd actually come," said Troy, the operations coordinator who'd been temporarily running things. "Last manager quit with no notice, just stopped showing up." "Why?" I asked. Troy shrugged. "Couldn't handle the pressure, I guess. Regional expectations are challenging." My first week was a blur of introductions and system logins that didn't work. The second week, I started reviewing the books. By week 3, I noticed the patterns. Vendor invoices for services never delivered. Consulting fees to companies I couldn't find any record of. Equipment purchases without corresponding assets. I pulled Troy into my office on a Thursday afternoon. "These expense reports," I said, pointing to my highlighted spreadsheets. "Can you explain them?" He glanced at the papers, then at the closed door, then back to me. "Those come from regional. Pre-approved. We're instructed to process and file them." "But they're nonsensical. We paid $42,000 last quarter to Westridge Analytics for market research. But there's no deliverable, no report, nothing." Troy's face had gone pale. "Marcus handles those relationships directly." "What about these staff reimbursements? We have 3 consultant salaries, but no consultants actually working here." "Those are special projects," Troy said carefully. "Regional oversight." That night, I stayed late, digging through file cabinets and digital archives. By midnight, I had spreadsheets covering my desk and a sick feeling in my stomach. Over the past 2 years, approximately $1.7 million had disappeared through carefully constructed channels, all authorized by Marcus Winters, all buried in different budget categories to avoid detection. I was taking photos of documents with my phone when the office door opened. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was just the cleaning lady, an older woman named Beatrice who worked the night shift. "Sorry to scare you," she said. "Not used to anyone being here so late." "It's okay," I said, trying to casually cover my papers. "Just catching up on work." She nodded, then paused. "You're different than the others they send. You actually seem to care." "The others?" 4 managers in 3 years. They all follow the same pattern. Come in all excited, then start looking at the books, then either quit or get transferred suddenly. She leaned on her broom. "The one before you, Tim, was here maybe 6 months. Nice man. Asked too many questions about the invoices. One day security was escorting him out. Company said he'd been stealing." My heart pounded. "Was he?" Beatrice shook her head. "Don't think so." But nobody argued when Regional said he was. The next morning, I received a calendar invitation for a video call with Marcus Winters. Subject line, Branch Performance Review. When his face appeared on my screen, I was struck again by how much he resembled his sister's same sharp cheekbones and penetrating gray eyes, but with a warmth Alexandra never projected. "Rachel," he exclaimed, "how are you settling in? Alexandra tells me you're quite the rising star." I forced a smile. "Still getting oriented. Lots to take in." "Any concerns so far? Questions?" His tone was casual, but his eyes were watchful. "Just trying to understand the financial picture," I said carefully. "Some of the accounting seems complex." His smile didn't falter. "Corporate structures always look messy from the ground level. That's why we have regional oversight so branch managers can focus on day-to-day operations without getting bogged down in the bigger picture." "Of course," I nodded, "though I do have some specific questions about vendor relationships. For instance, Westridge Analytics?" Something flickered across his face, so brief I almost missed it. They handle specialized market analysis. Very boutique operation. I'd love to see their reports. For context. Absolutely, he said smoothly. I'll have my assistant send those over. Anything else? The three consultants on payroll, Chen, Diaz, and Williams, I haven't met them yet. They work across multiple branches, usually remote. He glanced at something off screen. Listen, I'm getting called into another meeting. Let's schedule a proper sit-down next time I'm in Omaha. Week after next, I think. After we disconnected, I sat staring at my screen. No mention of the missing $1.7 million. No real answers. Just smooth deflection from a man who'd clearly had practice. That afternoon, I called Darius from my personal cell, walking around the office parking lot to avoid being overheard. Rachel, he said warmly, how's Nebraska treating you? Darius, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Does headquarters know what's happening with the finances in the Omaha branch? A long pause. What do you mean specifically? I explained what I'd found. The phantom vendors, the ghost employees, the missing funds. Another pause. Rachel, be very careful. Those accounts are managed directly by regional. They don't go through my standard review process. That's not possible. You're the CFO. There's a special designation for regional operational expenses. Alexandra set it up before I came on board. They get summary approval at the board level, but the details are compartmentalized. That's insane, and possibly illegal. Which is why I'm telling you to tread carefully. The last manager who raised questions about Omaha's books was terminated for cause. Alexandra presented evidence he was the one misappropriating funds. My head was spinning. Was he? I don't know, Darius admitted. The evidence looked convincing, but I always wondered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tim, the previous manager, being escorted out by security, his reputation destroyed. About the $1.7 million that had vanished into companies that seemed to exist only on paper. About Alexandra's smile when she'd said, "Consider it a developmental opportunity." She hadn't sent me to Omaha to grow. She'd sent me here to fail, to be crushed under impossible targets while her brother continued siphoning money. Or worse, to discover the fraud and then be framed for it, just like Tim. But Alexandra had made one critical mistake in her calculations. She thought I would break. Instead, I started planning. Each night after everyone left, I meticulously documented everything. Copied files, took photos, created spreadsheets, tracing every dollar. I established an encrypted email account and sent the evidence to myself in batches. I recorded conversations with Troy and other staff members who unknowingly confirmed parts of the scheme. I discovered that Westridge Analytics was registered to a home address owned by Marcus's college roommate. The three ghost consultants shared a mailing address, a P.O. box registered to a shell company where Marcus was the only officer. By week 5, I had enough evidence to go to the authorities. But that wouldn't be enough. Alexandra had too much influence, too many connections. She'd find a way to make me the scapegoat, just like she had with Tim. No, I needed leverage. I needed witnesses. I needed her to expose herself. And I had just received the perfect opportunity to make that happen. The perfect opportunity came in the form of an email from Alexandra herself. Subject line, Quarterly Board Presentation, Omaha Branch Review. In light of Omaha's continued underperformance, she wrote, I've scheduled you to present a complete branch assessment to the board next Thursday. Focus on current challenges and your proposed solutions. Marcus will attend to provide regional context. My hands trembled as I read it. She was setting up my public execution. After just 6 weeks, I'd be paraded before the board to explain why I hadn't turned around a systematically sabotaged branch, with Marcus there to contradict anything I said. Then would come the accusations, the evidence they'd manufactured, my inevitable termination. I read the email 3 more times, a strange calm settling over me. She thought she was springing a trap. She didn't realize she was walking into mine. That night, I called Tim Reeves, the former Omaha manager who'd been fired and escorted out by security. How did you get this number? He asked when I identified myself. LinkedIn message to your wife, I admitted. I'm sorry for the intrusion, but I need to talk to you about Meridian. Specifically, about what happened in Omaha. Silence then. There's nothing to discuss. I've signed NDAs. I know about the missing money, I said quietly. The fake vendors, the ghost employees. I know Marcus Winters is behind it, and I know they framed you when you got too close. His breathing changed. Do you understand what you're saying? Do you know what they can do? Yes, I said, because they're trying to do it to me now. We talked for 2 hours. Tim had discovered the same patterns I had, but he'd made crucial mistakes. He'd confronted Marcus directly. He'd trusted the wrong colleagues. He'd kept his evidence at the office. They took everything, he said. Laptop, files, even my personal phone. Then they found transfers to my personal account. $86,000 that I never saw a penny of. I couldn't fight it. The paper trail they created was perfect. Would you be willing to come forward now? I asked. With my evidence backing yours? You don't understand, he said, voice breaking. I haven't been able to find work in our industry for 2 years. My wife nearly left me. We almost lost our house. I can't. I understand, I said, even as my hopes deflated. But if I can find a way to make it safe, would you consider it then? A long pause. Get concrete proof. Something they can't spin or delete. Then, maybe. Next, I called Darius again. I need to know exactly who's on Alexandra's side in this, I said without preamble, and who might stand with me if I brought evidence of what's really happening. Rachel. His voice was strained. What you're talking about, it's beyond risky. I know, but I'm already marked for termination. Help me or don't, but I'm moving forward either way. He sighed. Most of the board just follows Alexandra's lead, but 3 members might listen. Jacqueline Chen, Robert Mosley, and Diane Littman. They've questioned some of Regional's expenditures before. Would any of them meet with me privately before the board presentation? Possibly Diane. She's the most independent-minded. But Rachel, even with evidence, this is Alexandra's company. Her father founded it. The board can recommend action, but they can't force her out without a supermajority. I don't need her out, I said. I just need the truth exposed. Over the next 5 days, I moved like a woman possessed. During the day, I performed my manager duties flawlessly, even implementing small process improvements to keep suspicion at bay. At night, I built my case. I managed to get a private lunch with Diane Littman, ostensibly to discuss strategic opportunities for the Omaha branch. She was in her 60s, razor sharp, with a reputation for bluntness. After basic pleasantries, I slid a thumb drive across the table. What's this? She asked, not touching it. Insurance, I said, and information the board should have about regional operations. Her eyebrows rose. That's a serious face for a casual lunch, Rachel. I've uncovered systematic financial fraud in the Omaha branch. $1.7 million over 2 years, all traceable to Marcus Winters. When Alexandra presents me at the board meeting Thursday, they're going to try to frame me for it, just like they did the previous manager. To her credit, Diane didn't dismiss me outright. She studied my face, then carefully picked up the thumb drive. These are serious allegations against our CEO and her brother. That drive contains records of every fraudulent transaction, connections between Marcus and the shell companies receiving funds, and statements from employees who were instructed to process irregular payments. I'm giving it to you because your reputation for integrity precedes you. She pocketed the drive. I'll look at it. That's all I can promise. That's all I ask, I said, and maybe that you pay close attention at Thursday's meeting. On Tuesday, 2 days before the board presentation, Marcus Winters made a surprise visit to the Omaha office. Just thought I'd check in before the big board meeting, he said, strolling into my office without knocking. See if you need any support with your presentation. I kept my expression neutral. That's thoughtful. I think I have everything under control. He glanced around my office, eyes lingering on my computer. I've been reviewing some of the branch financials. Noticed you've been digging into historical vendor relationships. Just trying to understand the complete picture, I said. He lowered himself into the chair across from my desk. You know, Rachel, Alexandra speaks highly of your intelligence, says you're one of the sharpest minds at Meridian. That's why I was surprised when she sent you here. Oh? This branch has unique challenges. Previous managers found it overwhelming, burned out quickly. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I'd hate to see the same happen to you. I appreciate the concern. He leaned forward slightly. The board meeting. Just focus on current operations. The historical stuff gets complicated. Might confuse the narrative. What is the narrative, Marcus? He chuckled, but his eyes had hardened. That you're working hard in a challenging environment and need additional time before we can expect a turnaround. Simple, straightforward. And if I've identified areas of concern in past operations, then we discuss those privately. Board meetings aren't the place for unvetted theories. He stood up. I'm staying through tomorrow. Let's have dinner tonight. We can align on the presentation. I have plans, unfortunately. I lied. Cancel them, he said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. 7 o'clock. The Capitol Grill downtown. We'll expense it to regional. Of course we would. During dinner, Marcus ordered a $300 bottle of wine and steered the conversation away from business for the first hour, asking about my background, my aspirations, my personal life. The charm offensive. I played along, sharing sanitized versions of my history while watching him calculate my vulnerabilities. You know, he said as dessert arrived, Alexandra can be difficult. She has extremely high standards, but she's actually impressed with how you've handled Omaha so far. Is she? I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. She is. In fact, we've been discussing bringing you into regional management after a successful stint here. Fast-track potential. The bribe was so transparent it was almost insulting. That's flattering. Of course, successful managers understand the complexities of corporate finance. The nuances. He swirled his wine. Some expenses might seem irregular when viewed in isolation, but make perfect sense within the broader strategy. Like payments to shell companies that deliver no actual services? The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Marcus froze, wine glass halfway to his lips. Then he carefully set it down. I'm not sure what you're implying. I think you are? My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. Westridge Analytics, Chen, Diaz, and Williams Consulting, Pinnacle Office Solutions, all receiving substantial payments from this branch, none providing any verifiable services. The mask slipped for just a second cold calculation, replacing the charm before his smile returned. I see Alexandra was right about your thoroughness. Those are specialized strategic initiatives. Their work product is confidential, even from branch managers. Confidential work from companies that share your personal P.O. box, that are registered to your college roommate's home address? He didn't respond immediately, studying me with new eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice had dropped to a near whisper. Rachel, you're making accusations with serious implications. If you present unfounded conspiracy theories to the board, it will destroy your career. Not just at Meridian, everywhere. Alexandra knows every C-suite executive in this industry. One call from her, and you'll never work above entry level again. Is that what happened to Tim Reeves? Marcus signaled for the check. Tim Reeves was caught embezzling company funds. The evidence was irrefutable. Evidence your sister manufactured. He leaned forward. All pretense gone now. Listen carefully. Thursday's board meeting will determine your future. Present the narrative we discussed, that you're making incremental progress in a challenging environment, and you'll have a long, successful career with us. Deviate from that, and you'll face consequences beyond your imagination. Are you threatening me? I'm offering clarity. Now, I suggest you use tomorrow to prepare an appropriate presentation. Later that night, alone in my small rented apartment, I faced my first real moment of doubt. The walls felt like they were closing in. Marcus's threat hadn't been empty. Alexandra did have connections throughout the industry. They could ruin me professionally, maybe even set me up for criminal charges. I poured a glass of wine with shaking hands and sat on my balcony, staring at the unfamiliar Omaha skyline. Part of me wanted to run pack my bags, disappear, start over somewhere new. The sensible part. But there was another part. The part that had stayed up nights building a case. The part that remembered the boardroom humiliation. The part that thought of Tim Reeves losing everything for simply doing his job honestly. I picked up my phone and made one final call. "It's Rachel Keller," I said when he answered. "I need to know if your offer still stands." Thursday morning arrived with a thunderstorm that matched my mood. I dressed carefully in my most authoritative suit, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, a crisp white blouse, and the pearl earrings my grandmother had given me when I graduated college. "For the days when you need to remember your strength," she'd said. I needed it now. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. at headquarters in Chicago. I'd flown in the night before, avoiding Marcus and Alexandra, staying with a friend rather than at the company-recommended hotel. At 9:30, I entered the lobby of Meridian's gleaming downtown office tower. My access badge still worked. Small mercies. The receptionist smiled at me. "Welcome back, Rachel. They're waiting for you in the executive conference room." They, not just the board. When I walked in, Alexandra was standing at the head of the table, Marcus at her right hand. 12 board members sat in leather chairs around the massive mahogany table. My PowerPoint was already loaded on the display screen. Not the one I'd prepared, but one created from the template Marcus had emailed me, full of vague platitudes about challenge opportunities and strategic patience. "Rachel," Alexandra said with a practiced smile. "Right on time. We were just discussing the Omaha situation." I noticed Diane Littman watching me intently from her seat midway down the table. No sign if she'd reviewed my evidence or believed any of it. "Before we begin," Alexandra continued, "I want to acknowledge Rachel's willingness to take on this difficult assignment. The Omaha branch has been problematic for some time, and while 6 weeks isn't enough to turn things around completely, we're eager to hear her initial assessment." Marcus nodded encouragingly, his eyes conveying a clear message. "Stick to the script." I placed my laptop bag on the table and took a deep breath. "Thank you, Alexandra," I said. "Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to acknowledge that what I'm about to share may be uncomfortable. It certainly has been for me." Alexandra's smile faltered slightly. "We're just looking for your standard operational assessment today, Rachel. What I found in Omaha goes far beyond standard operations," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "In my 6 weeks as branch manager, I've uncovered systematic financial fraud totaling approximately $1.7 million over the past 2 years." The room went silent. Alexandra's face hardened. Marcus leaned forward. "That's a very serious accusation," Alexandra said. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately before bringing unfounded allegations to the board." "They're not unfounded." I opened my laptop bag and removed a stack of folders, placing one in front of each board member. These contain documentation of every fraudulent transaction, including wire transfers to shell companies registered to Marcus Winters or his associates, payments to non-existent consultants, and invoices for services never rendered. Marcus's face had gone pale. "This is absurd. You've misinterpreted standard regional allocations." "Regional allocations to your personal P.O. box?" I asked, turning to the board. "If you'll look at page 4, you'll see the registration documents for Westridge Analytics, a company that received $216,000 from Meridian last year for market research. That doesn't exist. The company is registered to James Cooper, Marcus's former roommate, who confirmed to me yesterday that he has no knowledge of any such business and that Marcus asked to use his address for some mail 3 years ago." Alexandra slammed her hand on the table. "This meeting is adjourned. Rachel, you're terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building." "Actually," came a calm voice from the doorway, "I think we should hear her out." Every head turned. Standing in the doorway was Tim Reeves, the former Omaha manager, who'd been fired for supposedly embezzling funds. Behind him stood 2 people in suits that practically screamed federal agents. "Tim has provided us with compelling testimony," said the woman, stepping forward and placing a badge on the table. "I'm Special Agent Kimiko Tanaka with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. This is my colleague, Special Agent Dominic Rivers. The male agent nodded. We've been investigating financial irregularities at Meridian for approximately 6 months, initially based on anonymous tips, later corroborated by Mr. Reeves, and most recently by Miss Keller. Alexandra's face had gone from flushed with anger to ashen. There's been a misunderstanding. Any financial irregularities would have been approved through proper channels. Like the $86,000 you transferred to Tim Reeves's account after he started asking questions? I interrupted. The money you used to frame him after he discovered your brother's scheme? The board members were frantically flipping through the documents I'd provided, murmuring among themselves. Page 12 shows the IP address that initiated the transfer to Tim's account, I continued. It came from Alexandra's home network on a Sunday evening. Page 13 shows Marcus's text messages to the IT director instructing him to find evidence of misconduct on Reeves's laptop. How did you get those? Marcus demanded. The IT director kept his own insurance policy, I said. He turned it over when I explained that 2 federal agencies were now involved. Agent Tanaka stepped forward. Miss Winters, Mr. Winters, we'd like to continue this conversation at our field office. You have the right to have attorneys present. This is outrageous, Alexandra sputtered, but her usual commanding presence had evaporated. The board can't possibly believe. We've seen enough to warrant serious concern, Diane Littman said, standing up. As head of the audit committee, I move that we place both Alexandra and Marcus Winters on administrative leave pending a full investigation, and that we appoint an interim CEO immediately. The vote was unanimous. As federal agents escorted Alexandra and Marcus from the room, Alexandra fixed me with a venomous stare. You've made a catastrophic mistake, she hissed. When this is cleared up, you'll never work again. I met her gaze steadily. Unlike you, I have nothing to hide. The aftermath was both less dramatic and more profound than I'd imagined. The FBI investigation uncovered $4.3 million in misappropriated funds across multiple branches, more than double what I'd found in Omaha alone. 3 months later, both Winters' siblings accepted plea deals. The board appointed Darius as interim CEO, then made it permanent after he led the company through the crisis with remarkable steadiness. His first act was to reinstate Tim Reeves with back pay and a public apology. His second was to promote me to executive vice president of operations. The Nebraska branch didn't close. With honest leadership and proper resources, it turned its first profit in 3 years within 6 months. I visit regularly, not as punishment, but because the team there deserves recognition for their resilience. Sometimes I think about Alexandra in the minimum security prison where she's serving her 41-month sentence. I wonder if she regrets sending me to Omaha as punishment for my success. If she realizes that her attempt to break me revealed her own fragility instead. I don't feel triumphant. I feel vindicated. There's a difference. Triumph comes from defeating others. Vindication comes from standing in your truth and being proven right. The company holiday party was last week. As I stood giving a toast to the team, I caught Diane Littman smiling at me from across the room. After my speech, she pulled me aside. You know, she said, when you first showed me that thumb drive, I thought you were either crazy or making a play for Alexandra's job. And now? Now I think we're lucky you were crazy enough to fight when most would have walked away. She clinked her glass against mine. Truth is rare in corporate America. The courage to defend it, even rarer. I smiled, thinking of my grandmother's pearls and all they symbolized. It wasn't courage. It was necessity. Some things you just can't let stand. So that's my story. Not a dramatic Hollywood ending, but a real one. The kind where justice isn't a lightning bolt, but a slow, persistent push toward what's right. If you're facing your own Alexandra, someone using power to punish your success, to break your spirit, to make you doubt yourself, remember this. Documentation is your shield. Truth is your sword. And patience is how you'll survive long enough to use both. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment below if you've ever faced workplace retaliation or if you've had to stand up against someone who abused their power. I read every comment, and your stories help remind all of us that we're not alone in these struggles. Thank you for listening. Sometimes sharing these battles is how we find the strength to fight the next one.